What's up, YouTube? Back at you with another video, another quick take. I got my main man, my partner, my brother here.
You know what time it is? It's showtime. The most charismatic man, the Prince of Fresh Air. Always a pleasure to be on your platform.
Appreciate you, man. So, we've got a situation that I'm a little late to, but the thing is, you know what? I got to talk about it. So, we've got an article courtesy of yahoo.com which says 50 Cent says Omari Hardwick overvalues himself after actor's power pay complaints. 50 Cent and Omari Hardwick may have had a great relationship during the latter's time on the Star series Power, but their bond seems to have been broken thanks to Hardwick's recent complaints about compensation for the series. During his most recent sit down on The Breakfast Club, Curtis 50 Cent Jackson expressed his belief that Hardwick overvalues himself, pointing to the fact that the actor has not plugged any major projects since Power's 2020 finale. He said, I think he overvalues himself because it's been a long time since he's been in Power. Why are we not excited about the new projects? A confused Charlemagne then asked, what new projects? I didn't know. 50 Cent said, see, that's what I'm talking about. If there was noise going on, if he was that big of a draw, then we would see noise. We would see new things happening. We'd see you out where you're actively in a place where they're looking for you. When asked if they're still cool, 50 replies without hesitation. He said no, because he's leaving it like he's not giving him the money, or that 50's not giving him the money. During a June 2022 conversation on the Pivot podcast, Hardwick revealed that he made $150,000 per episode of Power, believing that to be too low of a figure for someone who is the face of the network, in Hardwick's words. He said, I still haven't made what I should have made. I still never made the money. No, the money I never made, or I never made what I should have made. Never, Hardwick shared. Period. It's happening now, finally. He added that he had to borrow money from 50 Cent during the summers to support his family and was proud to have paid it back. He also said 50 and fellow producer Courtney Kemp were aware of the fact that he was being lowballed because they're higher up in the company, though it does seem like he put more of the blame on Stars as a network than on 50 and Kemp. Still, mention of his name in association with low pay was enough for 50 to take offense. He said, if you saying Courtney and 50 know, you saying that they don't know who the fuck Courtney is. I introduced people to her. They don't know who she is. So you leaving it as 50 didn't make sure I got paid. He said, Mary will tell you. He said she got paid a lot of money on the show while she was there the whole time. I made sure that shit was right. And just to give y'all context, apparently Mary J. Blige was getting paid $450,000 per episode. So, bro, what are your immediate thoughts on the situation between 50 Cent and Omari Hardwick?
But this things are getting spicy, it's heating up, and this goes back to one of the quick takes we did earlier this year about the married, about the Viola Davis thing that was happening, and we're going to get into all of this, break it down. But my immediate thoughts was, um, I think both sides make good points. And I think a lot of people who aren't in the entertainment industry, see, we're both actors, so we understand about pay and value, and especially when you start getting into, speaking roles into TV and stuff like that. The numbers do change. There's a lot that goes on that a lot of people aren't aware of, and they just hear these type of numbers and they make an assumption, or they side with 50 or Amari about their stance. But this is multi-layered. This is TV. It's a business, entertainment business. And I already know who I kind of side with on this. But before we get to that, I'll just say that this is the type of conversation, you know, as an actor, you don't want to do on a public forum, because what's going to happen is that not only are you going to rub, bridges with 50, but any other director or network sees this, they're going to be hesitant to work with you, because they're going to be like, yo, you speaking about money situations that, that should be, talked about either through your agent or your manager, your lawyer, behind closed doors. That's my immediate thought first.
Well, for me, right? Because anybody that's been on my channel for, a decent amount of time, they know that I'm a really big fan of the Power franchise. And I'm a fan of 50 Cent, and I like Omari Hardwick too. I think it's unfortunate because we've all been waiting for Omari Hardwick to come back to the show in some way, shape, or form. And the consensus has always been that the reason why he won't come back is because they're not willing to pay him what he thinks that he deserves. So I'm pretty sure he's been approached to come back, but because it was never the number that he feels he deserves, he just never gave us that moment. And the thing is, Power Book 2, which is basically the continuation of the original series for people who don't know, and it's about his son on the show. And it's literally named after Omari Hardwick's character. And not once has he come back at all. Like you had 50 Cent come back as like a ghost or some figment of Tariq's imagination. And you would think if 50 were to come back, then his dad would have come back. In between one and season 4, that just never happened. And unfortunately, it boils down to, money reasons, which I think it should be art before money. And I think before I say too much, I think we all as actors, we're just lucky to get any sort of compensation for what we love to do. You know what I'm saying? Like I feel like it shouldn't necessarily be about how much you're getting paid, and it should be primarily about doing what you love to do and doing something meaningful and impactful on people, and then the money comes after that. So I think it's unfortunate that it's literally been 4 almost 5 years since he's been on Stars in that way, and he won't come back. And now definitely he won't come back because 50's looking at it like, yo, bro, like you every time you talk about power, you always talk about money. And literally 50 Cent has said in a bunch of interviews that, yo, if you're working with 50 and you need help financially, he will help you. Because what one thing he said that I really liked in the Breakfast Club interview, he was like, yo, you can't get to the championship if the team is hungry, if the team is hurting. So he's like, yo, I need my actors to be in a good space in order for them to deliver. So if he's like, yo, I have to swing Omari $50,000, $60,000 just to make sure he's okay during production, then I will do that. Just so he's good and he's okay. So I understand where 50's coming from, where he's just like, yeah, bro, like, I've always held you down and you're leaving it in a space where people think that I'm the one who didn't help you. So I understand that. You know what I'm saying? I think it's very unfortunate because that if Omari Hardwick were to have come back in season 4, that would have broke the internet and that would have set records for Stars if he were to come
Right.
back for at least an episode or two. And I think at the end of the day, it's a loss on all sides. I think 50 took a loss. I think Omari missed an opportunity. And I think Stars, they missed the bag because of that. Because I think him coming back would have really just created, it would have opened a lot of doors narrative wise that now it's like they had no choice but to end the show because they didn't have that, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So, when we initially talked about this, bro, you said that you kind of saw both sides. So I want to really kind of segue into that. I want to know what side you're more so leaning toward, whether it's 50 or Omari.
Yeah. Now, for me, I side with 50. And the reason why I say that, and I was going to cut you off right before you segue into this, but it's perfect because it works out. What Amari has to understand is that, actually, before I say that, I just want to say one thing about what you said that all sides lost. I disagree. The only side that loses is Amari. You know why? Is because certain shows, unless it's like Alone on SVU with Olivia Benson, if they lose a character like that, that is a loss. That is a blow. When you have someone who's been on that series for so long and their entire career is based on that show and everybody knows that show because of them, then yeah, it's a loss. And my thing now, I'm not a power book head. I know a couple actors who's been on the show, is still on the show. Um, and I can't really speak to his importance to power,
Right.
but I'll tell you this. Power is going to continue on, and they have been continuing on, and they still see the record numbers. The actors are still getting paid. They're still on the set. They're still working. They still, doing their thing. And I think part of the reason why I side with 50 is, and I think Omari has to understand, the industry has changed. And even if the industry hasn't changed, television actors, they don't get, these, Marvel paydays. Even, someone like a Robert Downey Jr., Chris Evans, Chris Hemsworth, when they first did their first Marvel movie, they weren't getting $1 million. They was getting, in the six-figure range. So he has to understand that he's already making a lot more money than most television actors do, who's been on TV for most of their career. And he can't compare, not saying he has, but
Mhm.
one of the things 50's talked about was Mary J. Blige. Now, Mary J. Blige brought an audience. She's, one of the greatest singers of all time. So she's going to get paid because not only of her name, but because of her value. And Amari's a great actor. This is no slight on him, but it's business. Any show in the first few seasons, you're not going to get paid, all this money that you want. For instance, Mariska Hargitay, Olivia Benson from Law and Order SVU, she didn't start getting $1 million paydays until well after season 15, well, probably season 12. So
Mhm.
that's 12 years on network TV of hard work, viewership that made her, that allowed her, Ice-T, to get those type of paydays. But you can't be on a show for 4 years and think you're going to get those type of paydays. The network has a budget. Every episode has a budget, and they can't afford to pay you all this money because you feel your value is much more than the show.
Mhm.
And I think 50 Cent made a good point. It's one of those things where if you have an issue, and I don't know 50 personally, but every interview he does, he seems like a cool, calm, collected businessman. If that's an issue you want to address, something like that with a guy like 50, you don't go on social media and slander him. That's the last person you want to cross because he don't take no punches. He's not a corporate executive. He's not gonna just lay down and take those punches. He's gonna come after you. And I think for him, Mari, whether he felt like he was paid his due or not, you talk to him about that. When you're borrowing money from, yo, maybe can we have a sit down with the executives? Because those are the ones that approve the budget, not 50. It's his show. He's the producer. He might be getting a nice chunk of change from it, but the studio stars are the ones that cut the check, not 50. And so that's
Right.
a decision that Omari had to realize that's not 50's call.
Mhm.
He's the owner. He created it. He's the producer, but ultimately, the money ain't coming out of his pet pocket. It's coming out of the stars. And for them, it's a return of investment. It's a, 4 season show at that point, 4 years in, we don't know what the return is like for them. So for them, if their show, every episode is allotted, a $1 million budget, for instance, they're already paying Mary J half of that, so they can't afford to pay him, and then the other actors, 25,000. That's not right. So it's a business, and it's a business that unfortunately sometimes we feel like we aren't getting paid what we worth. But
Right.
again, it's business. We not the ones losing money if his episodes start tanking. He's still getting paid his check. So that's
Right.
why I side with 50. How about you?
Well, all right. So I want to respond to the first thing that you said. Now I don't think every single Power fan is going to agree with me, but I feel like most of them will. If not, they'll feel where I'm coming from. Now, I think people really took what Omari said and ran with it, and I feel like the Breakfast Club, they kind of put words in Omari's mouth. So the most recent interview I think he did, which was probably with Gilly the Kid and whoever that other guy is, I think that was his recent interview because he didn't say this on Fat Joe. And if he did, I don't know, whichever one he did this year. But he was saying that, you know, Power was literally built off of the back of the original cast. So if you do have spinoffs like Force, Raising Kanan, in book two, it is literally because of the groundwork that the original cast, laid down, which was obviously Omari Hardwick, Naturi Naughton, I don't know the Spanish girl's name who played Angela, Joseph Sikora, 50 Cent, Lorenz Tate. Those were the people that really, created the opportunity for all these actors that are, you know, working right now because of them. He didn't say, "Oh, all of these spinoffs happened because of me." No, he compared the original cast of Power to, a championship football team. and he said that he's the quarterback, which is true because he was. Yeah, Power, the original series was an ensemble cast, but he was the lead. He was the leader. You know what I'm saying? I'm pretty sure if T.I. was Ghost, because apparently in, pre-production of that show, initially they had T.I. in mind. If T.I., no disrespect to T.I., but I mean, this is facts. If he were to be the lead of that show would have got canceled after the first season because he doesn't have the same chops that Omari Hardwick does. Because I compared the character of Ghost to like Batman. Like Ghost was Batman, and then Bruce Wayne was, James St. Patrick. He had a lot of nuance to that character. And I do think the reason why his career kind of suffered from that is because when you do a show like that, the character kind of becomes bigger than you. You know what I'm saying? That's like Jaleel White. It's not Jaleel White's fault that he never did anything after Family Matters. That's not his fault. It's just that he did the character of Steve Urkel for so long that character really transcended him as an actor because the character was named Steve Urkel. It's not like this was a Fresh Prince situation where that show was literally a vehicle for him to have a career after the fact. Because if that was the case, then Ghost would have been Omari St. Patrick. They would have called his character Omari. You know what I'm saying? Like they would have made sure that when people talk about, it's the same thing with Martin. Martin was a show made for Martin to go on after the fact. This show was literally just this show, if you get what I'm saying. So that would be my response to 50 Cent in a sense, because 50 Cent was like, well, why haven't we heard anything, from him after the fact? Well, why are we not talking about the next thing? Well, are we talking about the next Damson Idris project right now? No, there's no buzz about him. Why? Because the character of Franklin Saint was so, huge, and we were watching his character every single week for 5-6 seasons. That's not his fault. That's just how it is when you're a great actor and you give your all to a singular character that people watch every single week for 5-6 years. It's hard for people to move on from that. So in a sense, he is the face of Power. Because really, since the beginning of book 2, we've been waiting for Omari Hardwick to come back. People make theories about his character being alive. He's the face of the character. Yeah, you might have, Tariq and Kane and Mary J. Blige and all these other characters, but none of them literally have had the same impact as Ghost, as Omari Hardwick did. None of them. Because let's say if they did, do you honestly think they would have been canceling the show at season 4? No. Do you honestly think if they found the next Ghost or another character on that level, do you honestly think that they'd be canceling Force right now, which is another spinoff with the white guy, Joseph Sikora? They wouldn't be canceling that shit. It only had 3 seasons. This upcoming 3rd season is the final season. Raising Kanan, the same thing. All right, so right now we're going to have season 4, Raising Kanan, and they got one more season. Why are they canceling these shows left and right? If that's the case. If they had another guy, they you know what I'm saying? They don't have another actor on that level that can carry the torch. They don't. They have great actors, I'm sure, but not on that level. You see what I'm saying? That's like LeBron James was on the Cavs. When he leaves and he goes to LA, yeah, the Cavs might be a decent team, but it's not the same when he's not there. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. Once you trade a certain player or he retires, it's not going to be the same. But you can't fault him by saying, oh, well, why haven't you done anything since? Yo, he created a dynasty when he was there. You know what I'm saying? It's not like this is a situation where we're hearing, oh, damn, yo, they saw Omari Hardwick working at the grocery store. Life after Power. You know what I'm saying? He's down bad. I'm pretty sure that's not the case. I'm pretty sure he works. It might not be on that level, but I'm pretty sure when he walks into an audition room or when people think of him, they think of Ghost. They think of the gangster mobster type of actor. He probably got typecast. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? But that's not his fault. And again, 50 Cent is a real nigga. He's a cancer. I understand what he's saying, but I also see where Omari Hardwick is coming from. He's just saying, yo, I was the quarterback. I was the leader of a championship team. And because of us, because of my leadership and their contribution to me, because he's like, yo, I wouldn't have been what I am if it wasn't for all these other people, including 50. So that's what I'm saying. We have to really give Omari Hardwick his due. And honestly, if he feels like that comes in the form of a 7-figure check, then cut the check. Cut the check. Because yo, honestly, all right, like, because you said that Mary J. Blige, and I like her, right? I love Monet on the show. You said that she brings, a fan base. Does she really? Does she really? We're not talking about like Beyonce, and I'm really trying not to throw shade, but I'm just saying it's not like Mary J. Blige is like a Michael Jackson type of talent where she has a humongous fan base. She probably does bring viewership, I'm sure. And yeah, if if she felt that she was deserving of $450,000 per episode, give it to her if that's what she feels that her talent is worth. You know what I'm saying? But Mary J. Blige was not a proven actor before Power. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
You feel me? But
yeah,
Omar Hardwick is. So if he feels like, yo, y'all should be paying me $500,000 per episode, well, considering he led y'all to the championship before, millions of views per episode back when Power originally ran, give it to him. Give it to him. Because because that's what I'm saying, you have to spend money to make money. If they did that, I'm pretty sure Power would have went on a lot longer than it did right now. Because I still think to this day that they canceled Power preemptively. And guess what? The next show that they're going to do, or one of them, is going to be a show called Power Origins. And you know who that show is about? The younger version of Omari Hardwick. And if they don't have him narrate his own character or something like that, that show is only going to go but so far.
yeah.
And that actor that they get to play the young version of Omari Hardwick, people are going to look at him. But when people are looking at his performances, people are going to be thinking of Omari Hardwick. That is a fact. That is a fact. People are not going to be looking at this guy just as in and himself. No, because we think we're watching your character and we think your character story is dope, not because of you, but because of him. That's real shit. Power
Yeah.
would not be what it is today if they went ahead and they got Ti to do the character of Ghost. It would not be what it is if they got Terrence Howard to be Ghost, James St. Patrick. It would not have been the same, or any interchangeable light-skinned actor that I can't think of right now. Not Michael Ealy, because he ended up coming on the show anyway. But you get what I'm saying. The
Yeah.
Chicago Bulls would not be what they were if it was not for Michael Jordan. And even Michael Jordan said, yo, I was just a sum of my moving parts. I was a sum of my great team. Oh, Omari Hardwick he's saying the same thing that Michael Jordan said. You feel me? It's like,
But
yo,
yeah,
the league benefited because I was the man. Power as a franchise benefited because I was the lead. You guys gave me the role of quarterback, and I led you guys to the championship. I led the team. I didn't do it by myself, but I was the leader. That's a fact. That is a fact. And it's just like, of course,
yeah.
people are not going to, appreciate when somebody says, you know what, nah, I don't really want 150,000. I think I'm worth more than that. Of course, people are gonna feel away because if they want to give you what they feel like you're worth. And really, what he's doing, he's just fighting for his, you know what I'm saying? Like what all actors fight for. They want what they feel like they're worth. There's nothing wrong with that. Now, do I
No,
think now do I think that he should have communicated that with 50 directly? Yeah, because 50 Cent said, yo, he acting like he said these things to me directly. He didn't say that to me directly. So I understand that. But that's where Omari Hardwick is coming from. That's what he was trying to say. All right. So I know you want to respond. So you
yeah.
go.
No, you're right. And this goes back to something, Ari Spears was talking about when he talked about the Viola Davis thing. Actors, we want to get paid our work, and that's understandable. But one of the key things that a lot of people miss is the fact that these producers, these directors, these studios, they're taking a huge risk. And I looked at Maury's body of work before Power, and the dude is a solid actor. I've seen him before. But he wasn't starring on TV like a household name beforehand. This was his breakout role. And whenever you start a new series, you're not going to get paid what it would be like, 10 years after the successes came. And so, on one hand, I definitely understand his point. Like, look, I do want to get paid more, and I feel like I deserve it. But one of the things you got to remember too, television isn't the same pay scale as a movie. And it's all about budget. It's all about paying other actors. Again, I think he's a talented actor, but he is getting paid 150,000 for to be a lead in the TV show for every episode, where most actors don't get that type of check. And I'll tell you this, one of my you know him, one of my good friends. I won't mention it because this deals with money, but when he was leading his own show, he wasn't getting paid nowhere near 150,000. And so I think, in one hand, a lot of people are saying, he's ungrateful, because he was getting paid a lot of money, and he wasn't a household name beforehand. And so, in one hand, I definitely understand his point that, yo, I should get paid more. But again, the studio is risking a lot of money on a new show. They're taking a risk. And yeah, Mary J. Blige may not be Drake of 2024, but she is an established music artist, and she's going to get paid, what they see the value of. And usually, when you already come with a name, they're going to pay you a little more. So,
Right,
is
right,
it
right.
right? No.
Rightfully so. Yeah, if you get Chris Brown to be in your show, like a show like Power or Empire or Snowfall, whatever, yeah, he deserves the bag because you already know off rip he's going to bring viewer, especially Chris Brown. He's going to bring viewership straight up with him. And then again, that this is you are if you're already famous coming into it, then it's like the show is going to benefit, so your pay should reflect that. That's a fact. Yeah, there's no wrong with that.
Yeah, and I think one of the biggest issues too is, I'm a being actors, I often look at the behind the scenes stuff. And this is one of the reasons why I say I sound with 50. Most TV shows, until they start getting into the sixth, seventh season, they're not paying you all this type of money. Like I said, Big Bang Theory is one show, right? Most of those actors weren't getting paid that type of money until, season five. And then their pay didn't go up until, obviously they had to do the strike, which I know a lot of studios do take advantage. But at some point, after multiple seasons, you start getting paid your worth. So after like season six, seven, they was getting paid $1 million. Friends, same thing. Mariska Hargitay, Ice T, they were the names of Law and Order SVU. And I think oftentimes too, as actors, we forget, until you are undeniable in that franchise, you're not going to get paid that type of money. See, and this is why I said it's risk and reward. Mariska Hargitay, Ice-T, if they decided to leave Law and Order, they could go on and they will recast them, but would it hit the same? No, and they know that. They know that viewership will fall because a lot of fans are watching it for them. So they're going to get paid, multi-million dollars to be on those shows. But again, it goes back to the effort, the blood, sweat, and tears they put in. They wasn't getting these type of paychecks 5, 6 seasons in. It took about 20 seasons for this to come to fruition. And so again, and I think one of the reasons why I said the industry has changed is Power. Is it on TV? I'm sure it is, but it's more of a streaming show now because it's a lot of money is involved with cable. Most people who watch Power ain't paying for cable. Let's be real. So
Well,
a
they
lot of this
were, yeah.
stuff.
I mean, because Power came at a time where Stars was still a thing, and you still had to pay, for cable to watch Stars and shit like that. Where I feel like certain actors probably go wrong in this particular situation, and this is historical because I've heard this, being said by Family Matters actors where they were like how, they were considered to be a black show, but they would come on prime time, on Friday nights at 7, 8 o'clock, which is prime hours. But they were saying that they were only getting paid but a certain amount. But then they would look at, certain some of the white shows, I don't know, maybe Full House or Friends or whatever shows were coming on at that time. And they were like, yo, the networks were paying them the bag for doing less. It's like, how are we number one? We're getting paid six figures, but they're number two, number three, and they're getting paid millions of dollars. So that's what I'm saying.
Right.
So it's like I can't really necessarily knock them at the same time. It's not necessarily that these networks don't have the money. It's just, yo, sometimes they just don't want to pay because you got to realize black shows historically have always been undervalued in comparison to white shows. Why do you think, Family Guy, Simpsons has been on the freaking, air for 20 plus years, especially The Simpsons, been on since the 90s. but we couldn't get more than 3 real seasons of the Boondocks. How, you had, I guess, a show called Living Single that went on but so long. I wasn't a particular fan of that show. But then you take the networks, they take that same show and then they just put white actors. And then next thing you know, Friends is the greatest thing since sliced bread. But Living Single Ben did that. You feel what I'm saying? You have,
Yeah,
the Wayans brothers, they'll make, what was that show called? In Living Color, which was supposed to be their outlet, their SNL type outlet, because they got kicked off the show. Didn't last but so long, but SNL's still on TV now, and technically that's a white show. You'll be lucky if you get maybe 1 or 2 black comedians on SNL at a certain time. So it really raises, the magnifying glass to this issue that's been going on for a while. So again, I can't really knock Omari Hardwick for feeling like, yo, for the numbers that I was putting up, I feel like, yo, my paycheck should reflect that because I know how much money y'all probably made. And again, when you're coming straight out the gate, yeah, you can't ask for more bread. But when you've already established yourself and you know that my name attached with this series will yield these types of numbers, so it's not really hurting your pockets to pay me this much. I'm not saying he should get paid $10 million per episode. I'm not saying that. But I feel like, yo, yeah, he should get paid, Mary J. Blige numbers. You feel what I'm saying? And then even then, if you look at Seinfeld or whatever these, other white shows were, yo, these actors were getting paid wild bread, crazy bread per episode. You know what I'm saying? Talking about 1.5 mil per episode. And in this season, they do 10. So you do the math. Even after
right.
agent fees and taxes and all that, you're still getting paid a substantial amount of money. So that's what I'm
And,
saying.
no, and you're right, and that's a part of another conversation about the new era of TV because TV, during our grandparents, our parents, and even our childhood was cable. Most people don't use cable no more, and that's where the money was coming from, advertising. You had millions of people watching it. Now, when you go to streaming, you don't have that commercial type of money coming in no more. You don't get those prime spots that you would get if you were, maybe a power at, let's say a prime time would be Tuesday at 8 o'clock at night, when everybody's at home watching the show. So, the industry has changed, and it's unfortunate because a lot of actors are seeing this. People who's been in the industry 20 years who may not be household names but been studying on TV, they've even mentioned, my residuals aren't coming in as they used to. I'm like, the pay isn't what it used to be. And it's because the industry has changed to going on to streaming platforms now, which means that the money that used to be able to be made during the Friends, the Seinfeld era, the some of these other shows that was on cable TV. Those type of checks aren't coming in as they used to. And
Mhm.
the thing for me, 150,000 per episode. You take 12 episodes, you're making over $1 million.
Right,
That's good money.
right, right.
And I know people want to say, he's complaining, he's making that type of money. And I definitely understand his point. It's like, he feels like he, helped get them to where they are, so he deserves to get paid. But again, this goes back to business. And I will concede and agree with you. When it comes to a lot of black shows, a lot of shows
Hmm.
aimed at minorities, they don't get the same type of push that another show like a Friends would.
Right.
And but at the same time too, he is not bigger than the network, and that's what comes down to. See, Mary J. Blige, I look at it from unfortunately, I look at it this way. Unless you come in into the table with a big name, you're not going to get paid that type of money. So you, if
Right. When you're just coming to the table, that's fine. But I'm saying at this stage right now, it's like if you want me to come back and reprise the role of James St. Patrick Ghost, nigga, pay me the bag. Pay me the bag.
yeah.
This
But
because
do you know what?
we're not talking about 2014 when Power first dropped. We're talking about in 2024. Y'all want me to come back for some sort of sequence between me or a few scenes between me and Tariq. Pay me how much, pay me how much I've done for you so far, which is a lot.
Right.
Especially it's like if you're paying me, okay, for us, of course, $150,000 per episode does sound like a lot of money. Relatively speaking, it is. But let's say if you're the star of your own show, and your show is technically for the most, I mean, it's multicultural. Power is not just a black show, it's multicultural. You got people of all walks of life on that show. They're paying you $150,000 per episode. And let's say there's another white show, and they're paying their actors 1.5 million per episode, or at least the lead actors. You're the lead actor of your show, and that lead actor is the lead actor of his show. And they're paying him 1.5 mil. Your show is doing better than his. Why are they paying him 1.5 mil and you only getting paid 150?
Yeah.
This is what he's saying. So when you look around and you're like, yo, all right, my show
Because
is doing better than theirs. My show gets everybody talking on social media every week. When you look at the numbers, my show on average is doing about 1 million viewers every week, if not maybe a little bit less on some of the mid-season episodes. But generally speaking, the beginning of the season and the end of the season is 1 million plus, if not millions of viewers. That other show is not doing that. Yeah, it might have been longer running, but their show is not doing that. Why are they getting paid way more than I am and I'm not? And I'm not.
right.
And again, stars, they have many shows on their network. I mean, I don't know about now, but I know Power, P Valley, BMF. So you, and especially there's multiple different Power shows. So y'all got the bread. It's like, but why won't you pay me? And I also do want to get into why I understand where 50 Cent is coming from. Because again, it's like you said, people are not going to want to work with you if you're putting the business side on Front Street. This is why a lot of people, even if you don't even have to be on TV, most people, they don't like to talk about how much they're getting paid because that's a sensitive topic. Because once you start talking about that and you throw out a certain number and then other actors aren't even getting paid that much, then you're creating problems. I understand that. And I also do think that for somebody like 50 Cent who took 50K, $60,000, which is probably nothing to him. But if you took that out of his pocket to give to you, it's like you owe it to him to at least speak to him first before you go to the public. You holler at him and you say, yo, like Fifth, you know what I'm saying? Like, this is how I'm feeling right now. Or they approached me about talking about power, or I know that me coming back is going to be a talking point on the show. This is how I feel. Are you all right with me talking about it? You know what I'm saying? And if he's not all right, then y'all have that conversation right then and there. And I mean, again,
Right.
I do also think if Omari Hardwick has it in his set in his mind that he's not going to come back, then if you're not going to come back, then don't even talk about it anymore. And I'm just
Right.
speaking on this from, where 50 Cent is coming from. Me putting myself in his shoes. Because, like I said, 50 Cent's birthday is July 6th. My birthday is July 7th. Everything that 50 Cent says, honestly, like, he preaches to my choir. Like, I understand exactly where he's coming from. Even though, again, I understand Omar Hardwick, but I also understand the personal side of it. Everything that I said as far as Omari is concerned is really the business side and me advocating for how actors should be paid. But
Right.
personally, it's like, nigga, don't go up to the Breakfast Club or Fat Joe or All the Smoke or whatever, and then talk to them before you talk to me first, especially if you're gonna have my name in your mouth. So control the way you look out here. Because if I hear you talking all this stuff and then you spin the narrative to make it seem like I'm paying other people and I didn't make sure you were good, nigga, we're gonna have a problem. So that's why I understand where he's coming from. So if I was him, it's like, okay, if you know for a fact I will never go back to James St. Patrick again, and you want to move on, then move on. Don't talk about how much you weren't getting paid. Because clearly, even if we're paying you the bag, it doesn't matter because you don't want to do the character no more. You want to do something else. And that's fine. But then talk about something else too. Because you're in a way bashing stars. In a way, you're bashing 50 Cent by saying, yo, they didn't pay me at this point. But it's just like, yo, even if we did want to work with you, you don't want to come back. Because again, like I said earlier, you get to a point where all people want to see you as is James St. Patrick. And artistically, that's got to suck because I don't want to be pigeonholed to just this one character. I don't want to get stuck just as this one person that you see me as. Yo, I'm an actor. I'm a man of many faces, that I could put on. Why do I only have to do that? So I get that. But it's like if you're gonna move on, bro, then actually move on. Because it's almost like you're burning the bridge and you're kind of talking yourself into a hole even worse. So it's like if there was a part of stars that wanted to collaborate with him and bring him back, they're probably gonna be like, nah, because at every opportunity you can, you bash us. And then you throw the business out there when these are conversations that should be had behind closed doors, to your point that you said, initially. So
Right.
I get both sides. And honestly, it's like from a business standpoint and possibly even personal, it's like 50 Cent is the type of guy where, and he's not like a fucking Diddy type where, what I'm saying? Like Diddy, that shit comes with strings attached. I feel like 50 Cent is the guy that you always want to make sure you're on his good side, because if he can hold you down and help you out, I'm pretty sure he will if he can. You know what I mean? From what I've seen from like Soldier Boy, guys on Power, Rotimi, and just all around from what I can see, he seems like a very solid guy. So it's like if you that I mean, I'm not even gonna toot my own horn. It's like me, nigga. If you get on my bad side, nine times out of 10, nigga, it's your fault. Or I could trace it back to somewhere where you initiated that shit. You know what I'm saying? 50 Cent
Yeah.
is not the type of guy where he's gonna really start something. He's just the nigga that's gonna respond. And then a lot of times people that get on our bad side, they only like to focus on the fact that we responded, not how they started that shit in the first fucking place. Because I highly doubt if Omari didn't say anything in the first place, 50 Cent really wouldn't be saying anything about him. So
Right.
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, and two things real quick. Yeah, one of the things, like I said, something Ari Spears said was, regardless of how the project turns out, actors, we're going to get paid regardless. And that's one of the things I always look at. Pay is a big thing in our industry, especially for minorities. But one of the things he said is true. These producers, the executive stars, the writers, these are the ones that are getting paid off the back end. Now, some of them, I'm sure they're getting salaries, but when the show tanks and then let's say the episodes start declining, the viewership, Amari's still gonna get his 150,000. It's not like he's gonna take a pay cut, and they're gonna pay him, and that's the risk that we take as actors. We're not the ones who are putting up the collateral a lot of times, not always, but we're not always the ones getting putting up the collateral. And you'll see one of the things I've noticed, a lot of the veteran actors who up there in age, a lot of them are behind the camera now. Michael John White talked about this, how he said when I became behind the camera, I'm still an actor, but when I was behind the camera, I was making a lot more money than I was as an actor. Why? Because I was putting up the money for these projects. I was the one making the decisions. And if these projects would have failed, I would have lost money. And I got to pay the actors regardless. So, they're going to get paid. And my pay is going to depend on how this movie or this production turns out. And the second part is one of the biggest things you don't want to do as an actor, unless you're a Denzel or a big name, is to put your personal business out there.
Mm-hmm.
Because not only does it open up a can of worms for him, but now it opens up a can of worms for the other actors on these shows where they're like, oh, he's getting paid 150,000. I'm only getting 75,000. Where's my pay raise? So now it becomes a question of now these other actors might not feel that they're getting paid adequate, so now they got to go back. Which again, that's a whole nother conversation. But the biggest thing is from a business perspective. When we get auditions, right? They always say don't put any of this stuff on online.
Mm-hmm.
Now, why would you want to put your pay online, even though they told you not to put the script online? You're going to tell your pay and make a big blowout. So now for him, Omari, like I said, amazing act. This is nothing against him, but he's not exactly a Denzel in the acting world. He's not that type of big name yet. He's a star, but he's not an A-lister in that department yet. So for him, what he's going to run into is that people are going to be hesitant to work with him because they
Right.
feel like if we hire him and he don't like his pay, he's going to go online and talk about it. The same thing happened recently with DJ Vlad and Marlon Wayans. When Marlon Wayans was like, "Look, you don't like my number. Why you put my business out there? Now I can't work with you because it's clear to me you don't know how to operate within the confines of business." And so I think Amari, even if he was coming from a good place, it's also going to be a detriment. I'm not saying he's going to lose work, but he may not get the phone ringing as often as he would before because now people seeing the rounds he's making. These videos are blowing up, and people are going to be cautious to hire him because now they're going to be like, look, this guy's going to be difficult. He's going to be slandering our production. our show, our name, and we can't have that because now it's not just affecting us, it's affecting the other actors on these shows because now people are going to stop tuning in because this actor said something bad and they ain't gonna want to support the show. So not only these other actors who deserve to get paid, they might lose work. Our TV show we put so much work into is going to lose viewership because people are surrounded around this drama. So it's a complicated thing because on one hand you want to be an actor who stands up for your own principles, but you also gotta be smart about it. That's why we have agents, managers, someone of his caliber. I'm sure has lawyers. You go behind the scenes and you deal with that. And if things blow out and they try to tarnish you, then that's when you start taking it publicly. But I wouldn't even someone like Denzel, I've never heard of him speak about his money. And I'm sure he's felt lowballed before, but he's never been on, Google talking about, oh, I didn't get paid my multi-millions for this project. Why? Because this is stuff that happens behind closed doors. If the deal doesn't go through, all right, I'm going somewhere else that they'll pay me. All right, we'll move on. I'm gonna go to, another avenue. And that's how you gotta operate. So putting your business out there is not going to serve you well. It might do well for the immediate, reaction for
Right.
the clicks and the views, but his acting passion, his acting business, it might take a hit.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. But I mean, again, I'll just kind of rehash what I said a little bit earlier. I like Omari and 50 Cent were when they're on good terms and when they're friends, because when they're friends, that means we as fans will probably see them, work together in the future. But when they're not on good terms, that just to me, it hurts the brand because you're already telling me that we're not going to get a Power Origins narrated by Ghost or the Ghost or featuring Omari Hardwick in any way, shape, or form. Because right now, as a Power universe, there's not a lot that they can do because all these shows are coming to an end. And I don't know if they're just going to consolidate and then just do a Power Book 5, and then it's just going to be a combination of 2 and 3, and I guess maybe Force 2. Well, yeah, Book 2, Raising Canaan, and then Force. Yeah, I don't know. Like I really truly don't know what they're gonna do, but I think that they need his help because if you're gonna do an Origins, it's like because all right, Raising Canaan is a spinoff that's about 50 Cent's character. 50 Cent narrates every single one of those episodes because it's about him. Power Origins is going to be about Ghost. Why would you not get Omari Hardwick to narrate that shit the same way? Because it's not going to be the same. And I have a video where I talked about them canceling book 2, and I said that I was like, yo, Power Origins is not really going to hit the way that people think is going to hit because you're not going to have the people that you know and love on that show. They're not going to have anything to do with it. And sure, again, you can harp on their performances. You know what I mean? If you do a Star Wars prequel and it's going to be like the young Obi-Wan Kenobi, people are going to think of, the Obi-Wan, I forgot the name of the actor that plays Obi-Wan Kenobi, but they're going to think of him. So you're standing on his shoulders. So if it does well, you have him to thank for that because he was the one that built up that character. I mean, also, the original Obi-Wan Kenobi, but you get what I mean. So
Right.
I would prefer them to just squash it. But I mean, knowing 50 Cent and then knowing a nigga like me, if you do some shit that I really just don't fucking like, and I think and I truly believe that you should know better, or we've had conversations where at this point you should know better than to get on my bad side or to cross me or naysay me in any kind of fucking way. That's pretty much it, depending on what it is. And I think this
Yeah.
has really been like an ongoing discussion or narrative as far as Omari's concerned. And 50 Cent just now responded to it. But I also think that the wording of the question was also what, really kind of caused his response to be that way. Because if I think
Yeah.
if they had said it in a sense that Omari feels that he it was him and also the original cast, including 50, that were responsible for the spinoffs, then I think 50 would have really responded a different way. But they just made it seem like, oh yeah, Omari recently had, your name in his mouth and he said this, and that. So then of course 50 was gonna react that way because it just don't sound good. At no
Yeah,
point does it sound good when somebody feels like, yo, you were working for me and I didn't pay you or I nickel and dimed you. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah.
I think not good.
No, no, you're right, and that's the biggest point that I'm trying to make about this is the fact that when he took it publicly, he kind of burnt that bridge. Now, him and 50 will probably be cool, 5 years from now. But in terms of working together, it's done because this industry is about word of mouth. It's all about your reputation. And once you kind of get that reputation of, oh, the guy that goes on podcasts and talk bad about projects, nobody's going to want to work with you. And I think that is the biggest thing for Amari is it's not so much about the pay, it's about the fact that you're taking such a big public issue and you're throwing names in there, and now you're going to ruin, potential relationships you had because 50 Cent was doing great. A lot of people might have whatever opinions they have on him, but the dude has taken, he's made work for a lot of black actors and a lot of actors who may not have gotten that opportunity before. They made a name off of his shows.
Because of him.
So and like I said, this is no disrespect to Omar because he's a great actor and he deserves to get paid. But again, when you start going on social media talking about this stuff, you're going to rub people the wrong way. And one quick thing I'll say, one of the first things I kind of learned, especially when you get into the entertainment business, not theater, not the local film, department. I'm talking about actual TV and movies. An actor is replaceable until you have a proven track record in this business, like a Denzel, a Will Smith, a Martin Lawrence, one of those big household names, you are replaceable. Don't get that twisted. Now, Amari, I like him. Again, I never watched Power, so I might speak out of turn on this. But he's not exactly, like I said, the Mariska Hargitay of Law and Order on Power.
No. That's what I'm saying. See, all right. So, but if you didn't watch Power, you can't really say that. Anybody that's listening to this, anybody that really watches Power and is unbiased to this situation, that nigga,
No, no,
whatever that lady is to Law and Order, that nigga was to the original Power.
no,
If they
no,
fuck,
no.
if they killed off his character, let's say in season 3 or season 4, again, it would be canceled. It ain't gonna make it that long.
No,
It
no,
wouldn't have made
I'm
it that
not.
long, and they got
Well,
6 seasons because of
Well,
him.
look, no. Let me clarify that. When I say the Mariska Hargitay, I mean the 25 plus years that she's putting into that franchise. Ice T, if they killed off Ice T just for the sake of I want to pay him no more, it will cause outrage. If they killed off her character for the sake of we don't want to pay her no more, it's going to cause outrage. Power, like I said, I might be speaking out of turn here, but Power is still going on. They still have other shows, and at the end of the day, he is not exactly. Again, there's no disrespect, but he's not Denzel in the acting
But how
field.
many Denzels do we really see these days now?
Oh no,
Honestly,
I
honestly,
agree.
even
I
even the
agree.
the quote unquote leading men that we have these days, they're no Denzels, they're no Will Smith. Because when I think
Right.
of leading black men, I think of Mahershala Ali, I think of Michael B. Jordan. These guys aren't even that. You know what I'm saying? Because the industry, like you said, and like we could both agree, the industry is not even the same. So to kind of try to make comparisons to the guys before, they came up in an era where it was a star making era. That's where they came from. You know what I'm saying? And then the thing is, Omari Hardwick, he's not a film actor. I mean, arguably, he's really, to me, a TV actor because that's where Power came from. Same thing with Damson Idris. He's not like he could probably do films after the fact, like now, but he came up in TV. And we all know that, in terms of like just the transition between television and film, even in the 90s, that was very hard. Back in the day, you were either one or you were the other. You weren't, what I'm saying, both. And again, those actors that did make that transition, those were the Will Smiths, the Jamie Foxxes, the Martin Lawrences. And those were rare. Those are rarities where they had people behind them that were really pushing them. You know what I'm saying? You had guys at networks that were like, yo, we want him to be a star. So we're gonna give him his own show. The show is going to be named after him, his real name. His character is going to be, named after him. The show is going to be all about him. And then as soon as the show is over, we're going to start to move him and move him over into films. That is rare.
But
You would think, again, I feel like if Power was a thing in the 90s or some shit like that, then I think, yeah, Omari would have had the potential to be that, but because again the era is not the same anymore.
Right. No, and
And
you
also
know,
his character too, to be honest with you, because he was a very serious character. It's not like he ever cracked a joke or he was ever really funny on that show. He was the serious guy. Like, all right, just imagine if, let's say, roles were reversed. We're talking Denzel, right? Let's say if American Gangster was a television series, okay? Or as a matter of fact, well, okay, all right, because you know why? I just thought of Idris Elba. Idris Elba is again, I would probably say one of the last of his era where he came from, what was it, The Wire, and then he
yeah,
transitioned over into films. Where again, for the most part, he was kind of always the guy in most of his films. Yeah, because I know in like what was it, Hobbs and Shaw, he wasn't the lead, but he was still the villain. So technically, he was one of the leads in the movie. But
right.
would you consider Idris Elba to be on the same level as Denzel?
No,
Exactly. So you see what I'm saying? So we don't
but,
have that anymore. So I think
but
we have to be honestly fair to these actors now because we can't say, you know, he's no Denzel. Well, there are no Denzels anymore. And to become a Denzel, again, that's probably not possible. And I think
well,
the only guy that maybe would have been that could have been a Chadwick Boseman, but he never came up on TV, or he never had the situation where people saw him as one guy for 6 years, and then now once that's over, he had to try to his next objective was for him to convince people that he was something else other than
right.
what he portrayed himself as for again the greater portion of people's lives on television
Well,
at least.
yeah, yeah. No, no, you're right. Let me backtrack that a little bit. When I mean by the Denzel and the acting, where I mean when you get to the point where people call you, like Michael B. Jordan. People call him. He don't make phone calls. They call him. And Amari is not exactly a proven leading man. Now he did lead the show, but when you look at his resume before and after, he's not exactly the guy who leads TV shows all the time. So that's what I mean. Like he got the opportunity to be a leading man in this, but his resume doesn't speak leading man. So for him, now that this whole thing is happening, he's definitely not going to get a leader man opportunity, at least in the foreseeable future, because nobody's going to be picking up the phone to call him. Most of the time, get to a Denzel, Idris Elba. He's another one. People call Idris Elba. You know, he don't make phone calls. He don't go in audition rooms. I'm sure Amari still has to go in auditions at some point, and it may not be the frequent as like a beginner actor, but he's not at that point where people are demanding him to be in their projects. And that's what I kind of mean is the
Right.
fact that he isn't proven in that aspect that, hey, we need Amari in this project. Nobody's going to, like I said, no disrespect, but nobody's doing that. Oh, we need him in this project. Power as good, because I watched clips of him in Power. I never watched the full episodes and stuff.
Right.
And he was great and he was good at what he did. But when I mean by replaceable, meaning they can always get rid of him. He's not. When I
You
said that
can, but
Denzel
that's
was
what I
like,
said. They did it though. So he started the show and he finished the show. So how can they get rid of somebody who he's gone? You know what I'm saying? Because the series ended with him getting shot and he died. And then even that, even after the because I think it was like the first episode of season 6, he dies. And then the rest of that season was revolved around the different characters' perspectives of his death. He was the guy. He was the guy. And then even in book 2, all his son does is talk about him. All his son does is talk about him. The only reason why he hasn't come back is because they probably were like, all right, Omari, we want to pay you, ironically enough, 150,000 for one episode. You know what I'm saying? Maybe a little bit more than that. And he was probably just like, nah, I'm
yeah,
not doing that. So it just didn't happen. So he's not replaceable because again, they have yet to find another guy of that same level. And the closest that they have is his right hand man on the show, which was Tommy. You know what I
yeah,
mean? And then even him again, but they're canceling his show because I mean I'm being honest with you. The only good thing about Force is Tommy. Everybody else on that show, again, no knock to none of the actors, but it's just it doesn't have it doesn't have those dimensions where I care about the other characters just as much as I care about Tommy. And then the only show that got close to that was book 2, where when Tariq wasn't on the show, and he's not even my favorite character, but I cared about the characters. So whether it was Diana, it was Drew, it was Monet, it was Davis McClain, or it was Rashad Tate, I was always
Yeah,
engaged from start to finish. Nigga, when I'm watching Force, which is Joseph Sikori's show, if he's not on screen, I'm not really paying attention. Because for the people who actually watch the show, I don't really care what Junkie Jannard is doing. I don't give a shit what he's doing. You know what I'm saying? I don't care what the black guy that is rolling with Tommy. I don't care what he's doing. He's not an interesting character, and to be honest with you, he's just not that engaging as an actor. Let me not. I don't want to call him a bad actor, but I just don't think that that he's just well suited for that character. Maybe the character is written that way. I don't know. You know what I mean? So, and there's a reason why they're canceling all of these shows left and right. Because once they canceled book 2, they said that Force, the 3rd season is the last season. Raising Kanan has one more season after that, which is probably going to segue into Origins. Because when Raising Kanan is over, they're going to segue into the story of Ghost and Tommy. So I bet you, if anything, they're probably going to have Tommy narrate Origins. Probably. And that's probably the easiest thing that they can do. So Tommy's going
yeah,
to be at a point where he's reminiscing and lamenting about that. And I think they should, you know what they should probably do? They should probably do Origins like it's going to be a back and forth. So it's going to be a back and forth between the present and the past. And then everything. So Joseph Sikora is going to be the new lead of the show. That's what they should do. So when he's thinking of Ghost or he's in a situation, it'll just jump back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. You know how like documentaries do, where like The Last Dance with Michael Jordan, it was back and forth between 1996 and then back in the day. They should kind of try to do it in a way where it makes sense. Because if they try to do a new show with just, Ghost and Tommy in the young version, it's not gonna hit because these actors are not gonna have that same type of effect and depth as the original actors.
yeah. And let me say, when I say replace, I don't mean actually replace him in the character role, but the writers, the producers will come up with a plan to get you out of there, and that's what I mean by replaceable. Unless your talent is so great that they want you, they can always just rewrite you. That's what I mean, like actors are replaceable. Unless you get to a certain point when you know, oh, I don't need this show because I'm gonna get a call to be on another show. And I don't think he's at that point yet where he can just be hopping from show to show. And that's what I mean. Like sometimes as actors, and it's not me trying to call him ungrateful because, he obviously has made a career for himself that many actors will love. But it's not exactly like he knows exactly when his next gig is coming up. He's going to be unemployed for a while. I mean, he's not broke, so he don't got to worry like that. But again, from an acting standpoint, this is all business, and we all know what happens behind closed doors. If you come up with that reputation of hard to deal with, you're someone who likes to tell secrets in the
It's a
public.
wrap.
Tom Holland, for instance, how many times he's gotten called out by Marvel for spoiling movies, and he's almost got cut from Spider-Man, and that's someone that many people view as the best Spider-Man, which is Toby.
Well, I
But
don't know if
again,
he. I never heard that he actually was like at risk of getting cut from Spider-Man. I never heard that.
oh yeah, they at one point when he spoiled, I think it was Civil War or one of the two of one of those movies at that period. They was actually floating the idea of releasing him because he kept going on interviews spoiling things that he didn't need to. And part of the reason is because when you do that, you're ruining the movie not only for the other actors but for the audience and for the people behind the scenes whose job is to promote the film. And so that's the thing with Amari. Like I said, he's not a bad dude at all. I just think that he needs to understand that this is a business, unfortunately, where your reputation is word of mouth. And when you do stuff like this, it's going to come and bite you because now people are going to look at him as the guy who likes to tattletale business in the public.
Mm, yeah, yeah.
And
Well,
now they won't call him back again because now they ain't gonna work with him anyway. And we living in the era, real quick. We're living in the era now with the multiverse. They're always trying to bring somebody back if they really want Robert Downey Jr., for instance. They will bring you back if they really want to work with you. I've seen this time and time again on a lot of shows where they'll kill off a character, but the actor will come back in a different role. For him, I mean, granted, I don't know if they could do that with him, but he's definitely closed that door on him ever coming back to power because 50 ain't gonna want to work on him, and just based off that
Yeah.
alone, they ain't calling him back.
Yeah,
So
I mean, you know what I'm saying? I could just hold a grudge and I wouldn't even really say a grudge. I think once I just stop giving a fuck about you, nigga, I'm not gonna give a fuck about you, period. Like, you know what I'm saying? And when it comes to certain people that I don't fuck with, it's really just like, yo, if it can be helped, I never want to see or speak to you again ever in life. And I don't give a fuck what happens to you. And I'm pretty sure, I mean, with 50, it might not be to that extent, but again, like we're kind of on the same, fence of like, yo, like once you just do some shit, ain't no love on the back end. You know what I'm saying? And if anything, if you felt the way, you could have called me and told me that shit. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, what are your thoughts? Please be sure as always to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.
power.
Nigga said,